Okay, the reason this is being started late is that our vehicle may very well be kaput. I don't know. Yvonne started it. She started driving. There was a grinding noise and a pop. It could be the axle. If it's the axle, the vehicle's probably a write-off, and we're probably going to need to get a new one. But if that's the case, it happens. It's not going to be the first time we've had a vehicle problem, and it's not going to be the first time we've had that problem with a van either. So, at any rate, there was that, and it took us a while to get home. We had to get obviously we had to get a tow truck, and then they had to bring the flatbed just in case it is the axle, right? And then we had to get somebody to come out and give us a ride home, and all that fun stuff. So it took a while for us to get home. I did see the players coming out and signing autographs for the fans. Fans were very happy in Abbotsford tonight, of course. And it was a great game. At the very least, if our vehicle's dead, at least we got to see a win tonight. This would have been much worse if they'd lost and then the vehicle dies and you have Game 7 tomorrow night. So Game 7 tomorrow night is not necessary. Charlotte will now host the Abbotsford Canucks for Games 1 and 2. Games 3, 4, and 5 will then be here in Abbotsford. I have no idea how many of those games I'm going to be able to go to. I haven't looked. I don't know how many of those games are going to be crossed with the Stanley Cup Final. I wouldn't think it'd be very many because it feels like the Stanley Cup Final has like 8 days in between each game. But there you have it. So that all happened. That's your precursor. We'll get into the game. So, bizarre incident. First off, I might as well start with how the game got started. Abbotsford got off to a really good start. They had the first 4 shots of the first period. They were swarming the net, but Hellberg looked really good. In fact, I thought Hellberg played pretty well tonight, and he's a good goaltender. And then Texas got some momentum coming off of a power play. They didn't score on the power play, but they had some momentum coming off of said power play. And then there was a weird play. I could see it hit the post, but the red light came on. Everybody in my section jumped up. I think I was one of the few that stayed in my seat, and I was actually pulling on Yvonne's arm and going, ref's waving no goal, and to me it didn't look like it went in. And then in the midst of all the confusion with the smoke and the light going and everybody cheering, Texas goes down and scores. So, of course, I would imagine Manny Malhotra in between the first and second period was reminding these guys, you play to the whistle, because it really threw them off. I think the players thought it was a goal too, because the red light goes on and the smoke's going, and yay, here we go, song time. But nope. So it was 1-0 Texas after the first, and I had some concerns, which were only amplified in the second. Texas had the momentum early, and of course Texas, after allowing the first 4 shots, had 10 of the next 16 the rest of the way in the first period, and then Texas got off to a really strong start in the second, and they got a goal to make it 2-0 that I don't think there were some people in the arena, I don't think they even knew it went in. It was one of those passes from behind the net, which I've written on the board I don't know how many times this year, probably 500. But it was one of those kind of tricky, just kind of, it was right at the side of the net, and he just kind of buries it right from the side of the net. I don't blame Shelovs on that. And so it's 2-0 Texas. And as I wrote on Blue Sky, and as I said to Yvonne during the game, I don't know if they're going to get a couple on Hellberg. Hellberg looked really, really good. Hellberg's a big goaltender too, so when he's under the post, so he gets his shoulder under the post and he's square to the shooter, there's no net to look at. Where our seats are, I'm like, there's absolutely no net to shoot at. So while fans are yelling, shoot, I'm like, at what? There's this wall of man that's right in front. So there's nowhere to put the puck. I don't know where you guys want him to shoot it. But there were some ref you suck chants, absolutely. Everybody waving towels. I was waving a towel because you got to, when in Rome. But then they get a goal. And once that first goal went in, you could tell that there was a chance. There was a chance. So it's 2-1 for Texas after 2. And that third period, I don't know if I've seen Abbotsford play a period that well in my entire time of going to Abbotsford games. I don't know if Yvonne has either, but she's not next to me for this review, so I don't know. But it was amazing. It was amazing. They tie the game. They get the 3-2 goal as well. Momentum's on their side. The crowd's chanting Hellberg. They're all doing the taunt. They even did it's all your fault, which I thought was interesting because Hellberg, I'm pretty sure at one point played for Nashville. So it's not the first time he's heard that chant. I don't know if it's the first time he's heard it directed his way, but I thought that was interesting. So Hellberg, I thought, had a good game. I thought Texas played pretty well through the first 40, but in that third period, I don't know if Texas was really tired. I don't know if Abbotsford was that good, but they looked that good, and they were getting tons of shots. The shot count kept going up. One thing that both Yvonne and I noticed was Hellberg was giving up a lot of rebounds, and I was like, if Abbotsford can get to those rebounds, they've got something. Texas did a really good job of boxing out the Canucks at certain points in the game. That all fell apart in the third. And then I will say this too. After Baines got the empty netter and Arshdeep Baines had 2 goals tonight, he looked good. I thought it was interesting that they pulled the goalie again in the final 30 seconds. I get it, but I'm thinking to myself, like, the puck's just left your own zone. There's like 23 seconds left and you're pulling the goaltender. I don't think you're getting 2 goals in 23 seconds, and they didn't. And so we saw the handshake line. Abbotsford did not touch the trophy that was presented to them for winning the Western Conference. They posed behind it, for pictures, and everybody was all happy, but there was no grabbing of the trophy, picking up of the trophy. So for anybody who's wondering how superstitious they are, and the funny thing is that I had turned to Gabriel, my stepson, and told him that, and said, we'll see if they touch the trophy or how superstitious they are. And then the guy behind me said, they better not touch that trophy. So they didn't. I don't believe that necessarily makes a difference, but you don't want to be the team that picks it up and then loses, right? So Abbotsford gets the win. They won the series in 6 games. It would have been better if they'd won it in 5, sure, but then I wouldn't have seen it in person. I never thought I would see the day that a team I root for won a big playoff game while I was watching, and I saw a handshake line. I was floored. I'm watching a handshake line. This is the thing. And as I mentioned in the video I uploaded to the channel, the coaches were in the handshake line. I had to mention that because now it's in the back of our minds, isn't it? Because Paul Maurice. So what's interesting with the whole Maurice thing, I know this is sidetracked from the review, but it's interesting now that we all look at that fact that coaches are in the handshake line more because of Maurice than we did before. At least I do. And so it's kind of called more attention to it rather than less. So we'll see what happens in the Stanley Cup final when that's all done, if Maurice partakes in the handshake line. And then if he doesn't, does Knobloch partake in the handshake line? I'm thinking he does. It's going to be a lot of fun in the final. I'm excited. And we all kind of agreed that, and by we all, I mean in the family, we all kind of agreed that, the fact that Abbotsford's got to the final is great. If they win, great. If they don't, we're really proud of them. We're really proud of them for getting as far as they did. Manny Malhotra is an excellent coach. I really hope Vancouver doesn't regret not making Manny Malhotra the coach of the team. And I've heard the arguments of, well, he doesn't have enough experience yet, and, well, you can't just go on that. Right, how much experience did Marty St. Louis have before he took over the Montreal Canadiens? Not a lot, as far as I remember. And there are definitely instances where a team has promoted a coach who has coached for a while in the AHL, not necessarily that long. So I understand they promoted Foote. I get it. I get the reasoning behind it. But Malhotra's going to be a really good coach. And I don't know if he's going to be in the AHL that long. You look at that Abbotsford lineup. They're a good team. I don't think they're a great team. I think they're a good team that is playing like a great team because they're coached really well. The lines are really good. Every line chipped in tonight. I thought everything was good. The only issue I had with Abbotsford tonight, and it's a complete nitpick, was them trying to force some passes here and there. But that was at the point in the game where Texas really wasn't giving them anything. And one thing that will drive me nuts, more watching it live than watching it on TV, is when a defenseman pinches and turns it over. It's like, okay, you left your post. Now you turn the puck over. Now it's an odd man rush the other way. It is the one thing that will drive me insane during a game. And thankfully, they got the win. They won the game. They won the series. And it's a good night in Abbotsford. The fans were very excited. It was a packed house. I didn't see an empty seat. I had someone tell me, there were still tickets available, but I mentioned that to Yvonne, and we both looked around the building, and she found 2 empty seats, which could have been somebody going out to the washroom, going out to get a beer, right? So we did not see empty seats in that third period at all. And that is the loudest building I've been in for anything that's not a rock concert. I can't say it's louder than a rock concert. I can't. I just can't. I've been to really loud rock concerts. The one I was at last night for 3 Days Grace was pretty loud. Probably pretty even between 3 Days Grace last night and the Canucks game tonight. And I'm thinking there were more people at the 3 Days Grace concert than at the Canucks game. So there you go. The one thing I would say too, though, and today was hot. Like here was 31 degrees Celsius, which is around, I think, 90 degrees Fahrenheit. And it was warm in that building. Like where we were sitting, which was, I don't know, I think we're 11, 12 rows up. And I was toasty. I was warm. And out on the concourse, it was actually hot. They were trying to keep the doors shut, but I was concerned about the ice. Obviously, the staff was concerned about the ice, too. They even came out before they opened the doors and said, look, we're not propping the doors open. Just open the door yourself, come in, but make sure the door closes behind you. We need to keep the building as cool as we can because of the ice. So hopefully, in the final for games 3, 4, and if needed, game 5, hopefully it's not as hot here. It's not supposed to be. It's supposed to cool down. Tomorrow it's supposed to be cooler and it's supposed to cool down during the week. But it has to be a challenge. I didn't see any issues with the ice tonight from where I was sitting. Like, I didn't see guys falling down. I didn't see, like, a bad corner. I didn't see the puck bouncing a lot. So it seems like they kind of got away with it tonight, but it is something to keep an eye on, I would think, of the Calder Cup final. So that was great. It was a lot of fun. I'm glad we went. And I am very, very glad that if our vehicle was going to die anywhere, it died in our hometown rather than in Vancouver in the middle of the night in the Costco parking lot. That would have been awful. So, at any rate, we'll get the van looked at, and I'll even do a little update on, hey, so we're going to get a new vehicle or we're not. But thank you guys so much for all your support. It's greatly appreciated. The channel's growth's been fantastic, and I'm really, really happy that I can go and watch games and enjoy them and see a Canucks team succeed, and hopefully that rubs off a little bit on Vancouver, and they have some success. Don't laugh. When you guys laugh, I can hear you, and I think it's mean. But anyways, thank you guys so much for all your support. It's greatly appreciated. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And that was awesome. That was great. I would recommend you go and watch your team win in the playoffs. It is a feeling I haven't had before. It almost feels like pride. It's weird. It's weird. As a Canucks fan, this is really strange. But fingers crossed. And now tomorrow, Yvonne can sit in here and watch Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Final with me, rather than going to an Abbotsford game while I'm home watching this, and knowing she's at a, Game 7, which just would have been electric. But I'm glad they won it in 6. Glad it's over, and now it's Charlotte, and they'll be in Charlotte for Game 1 and 2. But like I said, I'm happy either way. If they lose in the final, they lose in the final. At least they got to the final. Which I don't remember the last time a Vancouver affiliate got to the Stanley Cup final, or Stanley Cup. See, there you go. A Calder Cup final. And I don't have my Calder Cup. I had a Calder Cup that was up here on the shelf forever. It broke. It broke like a year and a half ago, and there were pieces that we never did find. So it sucks. I should have a Calder Cup right next to that Stanley Cup. Right next to my beautiful clock, which says it's 70 degrees Fahrenheit in here. That's for the American viewers. So yeah, and I've got the air conditioner in here, but it's still, it feels hotter than that. I don't know how much I trust that. Anyways, there you go. Thank you guys so much for all your support. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. That being said, I'm going to go and watch some TV and try to simmer down a little bit. I'm kind of wired. This is great. A team I cheer for is in the Calder Cup final. I'm thinking Providence, Texas, Abbotsford, Utica before that. I don't know that this has happened. I'm going to need to go through the history books and figure out when the last time it was that a team that I root for has had a Calder Cup finalist, that kind of thing. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I will talk to you again tomorrow.